Before getting into the situation, you have to understand why a single date suddenly took over online discussions. People have been linking Claressa Shields, Papoose, and Remy Ma into one ongoing timeline, and once those connections started circulating, the conversation blew up. What some viewers believe they noticed in New York recently wasn't just a normal celebrity moment, but something they interpreted as building toward May 13th. From there, every appearance, post, and travel detail started being overanalyzed. The reason is that May 13th is reportedly associated with Papoose and Remy Ma's wedding anniversary, which pushed people to reframe everything through that one date. From that point on, social media stopped treating it like regular celebrity gossip and started analyzing every detail more intensely. Earlier that week, Claressa Shields was fully focused on boxing. She was in Atlanta doing interviews, promoting upcoming fights, and continuing to build her name in women's boxing. Everything she discussed pointed toward her career, business moves, and future events, and she appeared fully locked into professional mode. Then, according to online discussions, things suddenly changed. Without any clear public explanation, it's being claimed that she got on a plane and traveled to New York City, which shifted the entire narrative people were following. And that's where the controversy really started to grow online, as it was reported that she attended the Bars Hammond and Friends Rockaway Mother's Day concert alongside Papoose. The timing quickly became the main focus of discussion. Supporters pushed back, saying outsiders have no real insight into the private dynamics between the people involved and that conclusions were being rushed without full context. However, critics interpreted the same moment very differently, seeing the timing as deliberate, especially with the anniversary date tied to Remy Ma and Papoose being part of the wider conversation. Once that detail took hold online, social media users began re-examining every appearance and interaction through a much more skeptical lens. And that's when the online analysis really started to spiral. People began questioning why Claressa would step away from a busy professional stretch in Atlanta and suddenly appear in New York at an event already surrounded by relationship speculation. At that point, the conversation shifted beyond gossip into interpretations of timing, image, and priorities. As clips and photos from the concert circulated, social media users started dissecting every detail frame by frame. One point that kept being repeated in discussions was that Claressa and Papoose weren't consistently seen together throughout the event. Based on online observations, Papoose was at times seen seated separately, interacting with other family members and attendees, which only added more fuel to the ongoing debate. Meanwhile, Claressa was sharing her own content, posting videos and recording moments inside the venue from her perspective. For critics, that lack of visible connection became the main point of discussion, with some arguing that if two people attended together, audiences would expect more consistent interaction on camera. They highlighted the absence of obvious public affection or constant side-by-side appearances in the circulating clips. On the other hand, supporters strongly rejected that interpretation, saying social media was overanalyzing normal behavior and attaching meaning where there may be none. From their perspective, simply being at the same event doesn't automatically prove or disprove any relationship narrative being pushed online. Still, the internet didn't slow down. In fact, the more people debated it, the bigger the discussion grew. Things escalated further when older moments involving Claressa and Papoose resurfaced online. Critics pointed back to Papoose's birthday weekend and claims that Claressa was allegedly seen at his mother's home and later at a dinner with his friends. In that same online narrative, it was also suggested that after those appearances, she and Papoose spent time separately, with him reportedly being around family while she stayed elsewhere. Whether or not these details are accurate, critics used them to argue a broader pattern, claiming that what kept showing up were moments of separation, split schedules, and inconsistent public visibility between them. Supporters continued to push back, arguing that people were building full narratives out of incomplete clips and assumptions from social media. However, by that stage, the discussion had already shifted into something larger, with viewers treating every appearance as part of a single unfolding timeline. Once May 13th became part of the conversation, it started influencing how every action was interpreted. Critics described it as a deliberate sequence, pointing to interviews, travel, online activity, and the concert appearance as pieces of what they believed looked like a countdown. Meanwhile, others maintained that it was simply overlapping schedules being blown out of proportion by online speculation. But regardless of which side people supported, one thing became clear: the public discussion wasn't fading. Another layer was added when Claressa's professional responsibilities entered the conversation. Critics began arguing that, as a prominent boxing figure tied to major promotions and upcoming fights, her personal visibility was starting to overshadow her sporting achievements. They questioned the timing of her appearances at concerts and online events, while significant boxing promotions were also underway. From that critical viewpoint, once an athlete becomes the face of a promotion, their public actions are no longer seen as separate, but as something that can directly reflect on the brand they represent. That's when the discussion moved beyond celebrity gossip and started focusing on professional image, with critics shifting the conversation toward reputation, responsibility, and career priorities instead of just personal relationships. But the controversy didn't end there, as attention also turned toward Papoose. Some critics argued that he too appeared disengaged from work-related responsibilities and promotional expectations. Instead of offering any public clarification, viewers pointed to moments where he was seen attending events, socializing, and not showing consistent visible interaction with Claressa in parts of the circulating footage, which only added further uncertainty to the overall narrative. At that stage, many online commentators stopped treating it as a straightforward relationship topic and instead framed it as a broader issue involving public image, perception, and narrative control around two well-known figures. From there, attention shifted again to another detail viewers thought they were noticing: Claressa's online posting patterns. Critics argued that older posts sometimes resurfaced or were shared in ways that blurred the timeline, making it harder to distinguish between past and present moments. In their view, this created a curated effect where timing and presentation influenced how the story was being interpreted, fueling further debate about whether it was intentional image management or simply normal social media activity being overanalyzed. Once viewers began thinking in that direction, they started analyzing everything through a more critical lens. Every caption, video, repost, and public appearance was treated as if it were part of a larger unfolding story. That's where things became even more complex, because beneath all the speculation, many people kept returning to a key point. Claressa Shields is one of the most accomplished athletes in boxing history, a multi-division world champion and Olympic gold medalist who built her name through discipline and performance in the ring. Yet despite those achievements, the online conversation was increasingly shifting away from her career and focusing more on relationships, appearances, social events, and social media activity. Critics argued that the attention had drifted too far from her athletic legacy, while supporters countered that athletes are still individuals with personal lives that naturally extend beyond their careers. Even so, that contrast itself became part of the ongoing debate. From there, another question began circulating online. If a relationship is genuinely stable, why would it need frequent explanation or constant validation through public appearances and social media activity? In the critics' view, the situation no longer appeared effortless or natural to them, but instead looked like something that required continuous public reinforcement to maintain a certain image. Once that perception took hold, every new appearance seemed to reinforce it even further. For many viewers, the biggest concern became what would happen after May 13th, because online commentary suggested the discussion wouldn't just end once the date passed. Critics argued that any future post, appearance, or interaction could restart the same cycle of speculation and reaction all over again. At that point, the story was no longer just about Claressa Shields, Papoose, or Remy Ma as individuals. It had evolved into a broader conversation about perception, timing, and how social media constructs narratives in real time through selective moments, appearances, and interpretation. Some believe it reflects real emotional dynamics unfolding publicly, while others see it as people overanalyzing coincidences and overlapping schedules. And that's exactly why this conversation keeps expanding, because there are no confirmed answers, only interpretations, reactions, and speculation built from what people believe they're seeing unfold online. At this point, every post, flight, appearance, and even absence gets pulled into a larger narrative being constructed in real time. In the end, viewers are left to form their own conclusions based on perception, assumptions, and what they think might happen next. Now the question goes to you: do you think social media is overanalyzing the situation, or is there actually a bigger pattern behind the timing and appearances? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and if you enjoyed this breakdown, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for more deep dives like this.